Hello and welcome back to another segment of Ask a Therapist. Today we have a special guest appearance by Mr. Jack Cox, who is a VA disability attorney. Welcome, Mr. Cox.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
And we'd like for you to give a more formal introduction about your career, what you do as a professional attorney, a VA attorney, and just give a little bit more information about your background.
Actually, my background has not been in law. You might say I almost fell into this profession when I was 62 years old after I had retired. I was recruited by the Veterans Administration to come and to help veterans in their getting their benefits. At first, I didn't realize what it was, and naturally, being retired, I said I would rather go fishing or go golfing than come and go back to school, which that's what they told me I'd had to do, is to go back to law school. I've never been in law in my life. But they convinced me that they would be helping veterans and veterans' families and their widows, etc. So I thought I would give it a try. And after about 60 days, I was really glad that I did. It was a most rewarding and a most fulfilling schooling I'd ever had in my life. And I've been at this now for 16 years. I have never had such a fulfilling position in all my life, and I've been doing a lot of things. It's very rewarding personally, and of course it's very rewarding financially also, but that's a secondary, which is necessary. If you're going to do this for a living, you've got to have some kind of financial reward. But I'm 82 years old at the time. And I do not see a retirement in at least the future, not only the near future, but the future, because I like what I do. I see so much good that it is being done. I really feel like that the Lord has given me an attribute to be able to do these things that these veterans and their
wives,
their wife and
yes,
etc.
their families,
and their
okay.
families.
Well, that's awesome, and yes, that does sound like an attribute from God because of the way everything kind of came together for you that got you along this path. We want to inform our listening audience. There may be some in our audience that are veterans that have attempted to get veteran benefits and may have been denied, or are looking into getting disability benefits. How Mr. Cox and I kind of cross paths is we both practice with West St. Louis Counseling Associates, and as a certified rehabilitation counselor, I often have come across veterans and others who have PTSD, depression, but veterans especially, when they have these issues, and sometimes it's compounded when they are not able to get the disability benefits that they really deserve, then a person like Mr. Cox comes in very useful for those veterans, because Mr. Cox is able to then help them if they have been denied, help them with the appeal process, or help them gain the benefits, and then ultimately also assist their families. So Mr. Cox, could you inform our audience as to the process then, or processes that you would help them pursue with gaining those benefits, or maybe looking toward an appeal for benefits that they've been denied from?
Yes, my area of expertise is in appeals, which simply means that other attorneys have looked into getting the benefits with these particular veterans and their families, but they cannot, they don't have the knowledge or whatever. They may not take as much interest in it that somebody like myself would. So I take the appeal. I know exactly what needs to be done in order to get the appeal through, and for these people to get their proper compensation pensions that they need. It's a very simple process but the process is simple to me, not necessarily the vet, because basically they're told once that you go into an appeal, basically that application is completely dead, but that is not true. There's ways to revive that. I know what that way is, and I go through that. As long as the vet will follow my instructions, the cases are normally won. And it is very lucrative for the veteran and their families, because so much of the time that they literally go from absolute most nothing, because you have to understand the disability these people have does not allow them to have a job. There's no paying job there. Mm-hmm. So consequently, maybe the wife has a little part-time job or a job somewhere, and but consequently the veteran himself hasn't had the ability to be the breadwinner, where I can come in and change that completely and totally, not through employment. That is not through employment, but through the compensation that they deserve. A man that has just a wife and maybe one child with a disability program, they can start off at around $3,200 a month, and they can go up from there. Mm-hmm. So consequently, having one that can go from $200 a week income to $3,000 and over income, plus free medical care, especially for the veteran.
It's very important, yes.
And that's an issue that is very important also. Mm-hmm. There is entailments that's very difficult to go into to make one person understand, mm-hmm. but that's what my job is. I do that, and I get this done for these people. And that lasts for the rest of their life. That mm-hmm. income there is for the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. They cannot be, that income cannot be taken away from them. Okay. It can be increased, by the way. Mm-hmm. In some cases, it can be increased, mm-hmm. but it certainly can't be taken away.
Now, Mr. Cox, we've talked about your special certification and how you're able to address the concerns, because our audience, because we're on the internet, and I'm sure that we have exposure all over the country. So you also have a special certification that allows you to address concerns or take cases nationwide. So why don't you inform our audience a little bit about that, and then maybe how they could get in touch with you if they need your services.
Yes, there's no question. I appreciate that question. It was remiss of me for not explaining one thing, and that is that you must be certified in VA law. When I got into this, when I was recruited to do this, the Veterans Administration had their own law school. And that law school, we took nothing but VA law, 40 hours at a time. We would do 40 hours, and then we would go what we call OJT, that's on the job training, and then we would come back again for another 40 hours over a period of 2 to 3 years. And after those 2 to 3 years, then you got your certification in VA law to mm-hmm. do these claims. And only persons that are certified in VA law, irregardless if they're a board certified attorney, a civil attorney, they cannot do these claims until they themselves are certified in VA law. So, mm-hmm. and consequently, seeing that it is a Veterans Administration, consequently government, a law degree that I have, I can practice any place in the world where board of certified attorneys, civil attorneys, cannot. They can only practice in the state that they're certified in. So this is a big advantage to me. I do cases all over the United States without even leaving my office. I know how to do that, and that makes it so much more convenient. But the thing of it is that, as I say, that no outside attorney can usually do these cases. It's been tried, and I get a number of those cases from these firms because that they cannot complete an application for the veteran or the applicant. They just simply don't know the VA law. They have an idea that they can, because that they're attorneys, they can take civil law and try to apply it in VA law, which is not the case.
And that's very important to know because in case you have run into that very loophole that Mr. Cox is referring to, where you would need a certified VA attorney to handle your case to get the appropriate services. Mr. Cox, also, I'd like you to let the audience know about ways to contact you in case someone is interested in acquiring your services.
Surely. There are a number of ways. I'll start out probably maybe the most difficult. The Veterans Administration has a website of their own, and that website lists each and every person in the United States that is certified in VA law. They give the phone numbers, they give all of the pertinent information that you can use to be in touch with one of those people. Now, I will say that as far as I can research is concerned, I'm the only person in the United States that has the exact same resume that I do, and that resume is that I worked for the Veterans Administration for 10 years before I came out into private practice, about 7 years ago. So when you have that type of resume along with the certification, that's what you really need to be looking for. Because a person can tell you that they're a professional in doing what they're doing because they have this certification does not mean that they have the experience of doing it. And if a person does not have the experience, then that's really, you can't expect any results. But then I have two offices. One office I have in my home, which I use occasionally, but my more permanent office is in St. Louis, Missouri, at 9378 Olive Boulevard in Olivet, Missouri. And the phone number directly to my office is 314-402-0967. I also have an email address, is J as in Jack, N as in Norma, C as in cat, the number 3, S as in Sam, T as in Tom, L as in love, at yahoo.com.
Got it. And we'll also add that information on the end screen at the end of this segment. Mr. Cox, you have obviously a wealth of information to share with our audience, and we have discussed some of the services that Mr. Cox provides. And also, one of the things that he's very passionate about are the widows of the veterans, and that's a whole different concern that we would definitely like to share with our audience, because this is something that's very important that Mr. Cox has kind of taken the reins on to help make some changes in that area. So maybe we could ask you to come back for another segment to discuss the concerns of the veteran widows.
Sure. One thing that needs to be said, and there is no upfront cost to my services.
Oh, that is important. Okay.
No upfront cost to my services.
Okay.
The only possible thing that could be is some unusual expenses. Like occasionally I have to go to Washington, D.C. Now the client has to do those, that's the expense there, that's what I'm trying to talk about, but that's very unusual. I try never to go to Washington, but occasionally I have to, but otherwise there is not one penny due until your case is won.
Awesome. Okay, that's very important to know, and thank you for adding that. So, as I said, we will have Mr. Cox back on another segment of Ask the Therapist. But for now, this is Carolyn Catchings reminding you to never attempt to take your path of mental health wellness alone. Ask a therapist. Until next time, bye-bye.
Very good.